right, guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Resilient Responder Podcast. Today, we're going to have a pretty awesome episode. It's going to be a learning opportunity for a lot of people. Today, with me, I have Don Pemberton, DJ Pemberton from FRC, and Asi Oba. Did I say that right? I want to make sure I said that right.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So today, we're going to actually do something unique, something that we're going to try to do every once in a while here on the Resilient Responder Podcast, and we're going to actually do a coaching session, which is going to be awesome, guys. You guys are going to really appreciate this. Give you some insight into what coaching really can do for the responder's life, personally and professionally. We're going to work on some stuff with that and hopefully answer some questions today. So with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague, DJ Pemberton. He's going to give a little background on himself and what he does, both in the fire service and here at FRC. And then we'll let Asi take the floor after that, and we'll get right into our coaching session. DJ, awesome for you to be here today, bud.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you so much for all you're doing for first responders in general, for all the work that you're, spreading the good word about mental health, about, the whole other side of this job, what happens after the call. And so my name's Don Pemberton, go by DJ for Don Jr. for most of my life. And I am incredibly honored to be here. A little bit about myself. I am married to my high school sweetheart, Leah. We've been together for 19 years. Gonna celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary next year, and we've got 3 busy, almost teenage daughters. And I am a 4th generation firefighter. I knew firefighting was in my blood. I knew that I was going to pursue emergency services early in my career. And I started my career off as a volunteer. I got to work with my dad in the volunteer fire service, went off to community college, got my paramedic license, started working as a paramedic. And all my experience together, I've got about 23 years in emergency services. And I've been a paramedic for quite a bit. Spent most of my early career out in the San Francisco Bay Area. Worked in Santa Clara County with AMR as a paramedic, out in the East Bay with Alameda City Fire. And about 11 years ago, we made the shift out to the Southwest, out to the Vegas area. And I've been with the Henderson Fire Department now for 11 years. I'm currently the rank of a firefighter paramedic and currently assigned to the hazardous materials specialty station out with Henderson. And, as far as coaching is concerned, in the fire service, they tell you don't walk past the problem. And unfortunately, in the fire service, we've been walking past the problem of mental health for a long time.
Amen.
And so I got introduced to coaching by my wife. My wife was the client of a life coach. She wanted to be a better mom, wanted to be a better wife, a better person. And I immediately saw the connection between what coaching has to offer and the tie-in to emergency services. And so after I became a coach, or I went through a coach certification program, became a certified life coach, and was starting my own business, growing my own business. And I started reaching out to first responders. And my first goal was to help 10 first responders lose 10 pounds in 4 weeks. And so I created a flyer. I was putting it on various Facebook groups out there, and I got a bounce back message saying, "We need to talk." I'm like, great. I've been doing this for 6 months now, and I'm already getting in trouble.
Right.
But it turns out it was Jen Anderson from First Responder Coaching. She didn't want to sue me. She wanted to hire me, which was great.
What a relief.
Yeah, exactly. And so started conversation with Jen. I came onto the First Responder Coaching team, and ever since then, I've had an amazing experience with FRC. A little bit a while ago, an opportunity came up to take a greater role in the company, and I've been, I guess, promoted would be the best word, to the director of business development. And so my role in the company has shifted from doing one-on-one coaching to more connecting organizations and individuals with our coaches. And so it's a new experience for me. It's flexing a muscle in me that I didn't have before. And so that's been an opportunity for growth and development for myself. And, in this episode, I hope to demonstrate the power of coaching. At FRC, we recognize that coaching partners are whole, they're healthy, and they're resourceful. And it's my job as a coach to help draw out that knowledge that is already within that individual and help them achieve their full potential across all their aspects of life. And so I appreciate this opportunity to chat with you, Keith and Asi. And Asi, why don't you take it from here, man? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? A little bit about your background. How did you end up in Vegas? And love to learn some more about you.
How do you end up in Vegas? I want to know that too. How do you end up in Vegas? Go with it, man. I want to hear
Oh,
this.
absolutely. Well, we can kind of, go a little chronologically. My name is Asi Oba, currently a fire engineer, Clark County Fire Department. I've been on Clark County Fire for about 6 years, close to 7 now. And the next testing process, which is 2024 for us, I'll be testing to make happen. I'm moving
Nice.
through pretty quickly, simply because I don't necessarily have the time on experience at Clark County Fire, but as far as age goes, I'm kind of up there. And I did time in the United States Air Force. It's kind of what led me here. I met my wife, United States Air Force, in 2002 or 2003.
Get it right, man. You're being recorded.
Hey, you know what? It's kind of funny. We got married in '06, so it's all good. You know what I mean? But we've been married for a little while now. We have a daughter, 18 years old. We have a son that's 15 years old. My wife is actually responder wellness coordinator for the Clark County. So she works with all the agencies as well. She's met with DJ before. So she's also involved with everything that goes on down here in Clark County. As I stated, spent time in the Air Force. I was a firefighter in the United States Air Force. I got out in 2005. Between time, I actually worked for the armored trucks out here in Las Vegas for about 10 years. And I ended up finding my way back to the fire service. I don't feel like I chose it. I felt like as a whole, it chose me. I didn't grow
Right.
up with aspirations of being a firefighter, but it's a great career field. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, that's just a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate it. This is a very unique opportunity that we're embarked on today. And it's great to have someone with not only fire service experience, but US military experience. A lot of times, people just assume that there's a lot of correlation between those who served and then becoming either in fire, EMS, or police, or even dispatch. But they don't necessarily understand the why. And a lot of that why is because of how similar the lifestyles are, how in the military you're trained to be on, you're trained to be on all the time and ready to go at a moment's notice. And for us in the fire service specifically, with today's episode, that couldn't be any truer. And one of the things that we like to hit on, and we'll probably end up hitting on this during the session, is the part in our lives where we figure out how to turn those dials down a little bit and try to get them back within normal limits. And that is sort of part of what comes with resiliency. And this is part of what, coaching can help people achieve, is that living with resiliency, not even just living with really good coping skills. And that's sort of what we're going to kind of show today. I'm sure DJ is an amazing coach and just an amazing person. His voice is the reason why we use his voice with our ads. He has much more of a artistic voice than mine. I'm more for speaking. He's definitely one. He could probably sing a song if he wanted to.
Yeah. We want to keep an audience, not lose our audience at this point.
But yeah, so I say we just break right into some talking with coaching here, and I'm gonna let DJ sort of Asi, you and DJ just kind of take the floor, and we'll go from there and see what we can work on. And I often don't get a chance to sit back with my role at FRC, at First Responder Coach, and I don't often get a chance to sit back and see an actual coaching session happen. So I'm actually very excited about this. I'm looking forward to this today. So you guys take it away, and we'll go from there, man.
Perfect. Well, Asi, I greatly appreciate your willingness to come and sit down with us. One of the things about the coaching relationship that immediately develops as soon as we sit down with individuals is that we create a connection. And one of those things that we really strive for at FRC is creating and fostering that connection. And so, with that being said, this is obviously being recorded. This is kind of an atypical setup. Under normal circumstances, we would absolutely be respective of confidentiality within the rules of the law. There are certain things that I have to advise local authorities if there were certain things that were shared as far as harming yourself, harming your others, that kind of stuff. But outside of that, we respect absolute confidentiality with first responder coaching. And so, coming into a more public forum in a podcast in this environment, if we do start touching on a topic that you don't want to share with the entire first responder world, you can just tell me and we can shift on to something else. I've got lots and lots of things that we can work on, but I just want to come out in front and acknowledge that this is kind of an atypical environment, and I really appreciate your willingness to participate. So with that being said, I think the greatest opening line for a coach is, Asi, what can I coach you on today?
You know what? I appreciate you, Don, and thank you for having me. Um, one of the things that I've been dealing with recently, and I talked to some of the younger guys that come on the department. I just spoke with a rookie who I was on a rescue with yesterday, and we had a conversation. He has a 11-month-old new kid,
Mhm.
and I was just telling him about the difference between where I am, personally, and where he is. And I just, I like to share kind of that thing. It's like changing dynamics is what kind of eats me up a little bit. And what's crazy is that I'm pretty much aware that, things change and you got to kind of speak on them and look at things. But where I am in my life is I have a daughter, 18 years old. She's actually just came home a few days ago from college. She's doing awesome. She's in ROTC. She's in Georgia Military College. She'll get commissioned next year. Um, she's kicking butt. So doing way better than I expected. I thought she would call me saying, "Dad, I need help." We train for these things, and I try to make sure I gave her everything I could on the way, and now she's just flourishing. Um, I have a son, 15 years old, taller than me, 6'5", plays basketball. He's plays for Liberty High School. He's a very he's playing junior varsity, but he's also getting varsity minutes. I don't really see my son. The last couple years he was homeschooled due to COVID. So it's just a change with my daughter being here last year, my son being here all day. They kind of need you, they talk to you, and this year is completely different. My son, he leaves home at 6 a.m. He comes home 8:30 p.m. My daughter, she's not here at all. Some weeks I don't get a call from her. My wife, she's a general. She can run the household when I'm not there. It's almost like things backfired to where at the beginning of me working for Clark County Fire, I wanted to train them to be able to do things without me. Now they can do everything without me. My feeling is it's almost like sometimes I could see my own death. It's like I know that they can move on without me in front of me. I come home and my wife could say, "Hey, can you grab that off the top shelf?" She's not even talking to me. She's talking to my son because he's 6'5" now. And I'm like, holy crap. So I have a feeling of emptiness sometimes, feelings of inadequacy, just because, but I know that I've done everything I can. And I try to use it as I don't know if you guys ever played the video game like Grand Theft Auto. You ever play that and you
Yeah.
complete all the missions. Now you got all the money. Now you got everything that you wanted, but you really like playing the game, but now you have nothing to do. So you drive around and maybe do some destructive things and just pass the time by. That sometimes I feel like that. I get home, nobody's here. My wife's at work, my son's gone. What do I do with my time? I feel like I'm the busiest, not busy person ever. So, I mean, I know that's a lot. It's kind of broad, but that's kind of where I am, DJ.
Hey, I greatly appreciate your candidness in sharing and just trying to help us understand kind of where you're at that stage in life. And one of the things that I want to ask you right up front is why is any of this a problem? And why has this backfired on you? Your son is kicking butt. He's playing basketball. Your daughter is doing an amazing job. She's going to be a commissioned officer at coming up to 18 years old. And your wife is doing a great job in her job. She's touching and she's helping some amazing people throughout the community. And you've got your job. So help me understand what has gone wrong.
Nothing. And that's the weird part about everything. And, I like to look at myself as I'm a planner, I'm a big thinker. And we've talked about this. We talked about these spaces and these pockets, but it doesn't make it easier. So nothing's wrong. Things change and you have to find out what to do with yourself. And I think I'm in a space to where, I remember, we just had things happen recently in, different departments. Henderson, we just lost somebody. And sometimes I remember thinking to myself, well, how could you think that way? How could you feel that way? And as sad as it sounds, like I can kind of understand it. It's just a combination of things. And for me, fortunately enough, things are going great. I have great relationship with my wife, have a great relationship with my kids, but there could be a shift in dynamics. I mean, my relationship with my mother isn't great, and that bugs me. And it's
Mhm.
something that, I speak to a therapist, on a regular basis. And it's one of those things where of all the tragic things that I see, running calls and doing things that, the average person wouldn't do, my biggest problem, the thing that weighs on me most is, my relationship with my mother, or, not being there, or feeling like my children don't need me, or my wife is way too strong. And I'm like, wow. And she works in this field, so she can, you feel sometimes like you're getting diagnosed and you just like, hey, I just had a long night. She's like, maybe it's the PTSD. I'm like, all right, here we go. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
No.
So I'm sorry. I know that this could be broad, but these are the things that I'm pretty open about. And I'm open about it probably with a lot of people I meet, because I would like for them to, take it off their plate if they have it, and, be able to express it, and bring that vulnerability to them. So I'm pretty open about it. So I don't mind anything that's being shared on here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. And, you brought up something that's really important to me. And, aside from our conversation, suicide is something that is, is unfortunately very prevalent in emergency services. And when you look at the statistics between those that come from a military background that then become first responders, the numbers for those individuals that struggle with mental health is even bigger. And one of the reasons that I became a life coach was because of the loss of a member from our department about 3 years ago, and the fact that we're going through what we're going through with the loss of our beloved engineer Cleet Dadian is even more of an importance when it comes to the work that we're doing and raising that awareness. And I don't think there's anything wrong with you sharing your feelings with those people that are around you. And I think we are in a culture now where people are so deathly afraid of seeming weak. They're so afraid of being vulnerable. They're so afraid of sharing them. And one of the books that I'm reading right now, it's called "Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself," and they talk about the two hands. And your upper hand is the one that everyone sees. It's the one that we project. It's the one that we want people to recognize us at. And then you've got that lower hand, and that's the person that you are inside. And in this job, we do an amazing job of keeping those hands as far away from each other as possible. And we don't open up to those individuals. We don't pull our captains aside, our other engineers, those other informal leaders that we have in our organization. We don't pull them aside and say, hey, like, there's something that's missing, or there's something that isn't quite firing for me right now, and can I talk to you about it? And I think that's what first responder coaching is trying to achieve, is that we're trying to open up those lines of communication. We're trying to do those things to help individuals that are having those struggles and having those challenges in life, to be able to address them as best as possible. And so one of the things that you brought up, and specifically, was your relationship with your mom. Now, would you be willing to share a little bit about why is it that you mentioned the relationship with your mom right now, and what is it that you think that you could do moving forward to improve on that relationship with your mom?
Uh, well, it's a odd feeling, and to go back a little further, my story, I was brought up, in a pretty rough situation. I was, I lived in the projects, as a child. My mother had me at 17 years old. Um, and I grew up, when the crack epidemic hit, and I had a chance to see, um, well, unfortunately, how it affected the community. And luckily, my mother didn't partake, but I saw my friends lose parents in a day. And I saw, kids go to school just to eat. And I saw how, the community changed. And um, so me and my mother grew up really, really close, and she taught me everything she could, whether it was good or bad, we learned together. We grew up together. And, as I stated, I got married, and had kids, and I did what, one day my mother was married, and she had a husband whose mom was always in their relationship. And one thing she told me was, son, never let your mother get, too involved in your marriage.
Mm.
Mhm.
In the back of my mind, I always took that. And I took that advice. And as I got older, I was a crappy husband to start. I really didn't know how to be a husband because I didn't watch like real, good interactions. So one day I had an epiphany when I was young into my marriage. And I was like, I got to stop certain things. And I can't let these things, if I want the marriage to work, I had to make a choice. And my choice was to put my wife first, prioritize, put my kids. And my mother ended up kind of on the list as like fourth, which I don't think it, she liked that. And throughout the years, it's just been a little friction, a little bit of resentment, a little bit of, and ultimately I do everything and anything I can for my mother. But it always came at, okay, I got to take care of my household first. Then I got you. But I don't think it was good enough for her. And in a way, I try to go above and beyond for her. But at the same time, I had to protect my peace too. So it's been like a year and a half since we really spoke. So that's one of the things that just weighs on me because it's unfortunate,
Yeah.
and so there. Hopefully
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
explains.
I think one of the things that we do as men, as people with a as a background in emergency services, in the military, and everything else, we have this thinking that it's either I'm a good dad, or I'm a good husband, or I'm a good son, or I'm a good firefighter. And I think one of the things that we love to help people realize is that you can be a good man and be a good husband and be a good father and be a good son all at the same time. And I think that those limiting beliefs that we put upon ourselves, they're hard to get over because we believe them. And sometimes just having that option of saying, hey, let me do everything I can in my household and be a good son at the same time, and be an amazing engineer, and be a future leader of this organization, that can just that shift of that one word can make all the difference in the world. And when we get to the point where we believe that with everything in our soul, that becomes the person that you are, is that I am a good person and I do all of these amazing things.
Yeah. No, I understand that, and that's kind of where we've been, like, and it just feels like, like it's good enough, I can live with that, but can other people live with that when they know that, hey, this is just the way it's structured, but yet, hey, we got to cover a lot of bases. When I came to Las Vegas, my mother came down, my uncle came down. I pretty much had a good amount of people come from my hometown and kind of, come in, and I can't make a decision based on just me or my family.
Right.
When I look at things, this is the big ship, and I have to stay afloat. And it's not just for me, it's for everybody. And people don't normally, they don't always get things exactly the way they want them or the way they think they should. Doesn't mean they don't get it. It just means that it's like saying, you get a pay raise. Am I supposed to directly pay you the pay raise that I get? Like, do I say, okay, the money they gave me on top of that, oh, you get that 4%, and there you go. Or, do you make sure you take care of all your bills a certain way? Say, hey, I gotta go pay this off. And ultimately it's gonna help everybody because I'm available in this way. So it's almost a thing of, people don't understand what you're building until it's finished. It's so many different ways, but I feel like I have to be a strong enough person to understand, yes, I'm doing everything I can. And sometimes it takes time.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm working on internally, just being strong enough to say, hey, hopefully it's just the time being. And, hopefully we can mend those fences, accordingly. But I have to give people the space if that's what there's not really much I could do.
This is a really, really great conversation, which is starting to get to I think it's circling around a subject that is really near and dear to me, which we will get to in just a few after we finish this coaching session. But we're just going to take a real quick break, folks, just for a word from our sponsor, First Responder Coaching.
Coaching is here now for all first responders and their families. When it comes to the job and the stresses that come with it, we at First Responder Coaching know exactly how it can affect every aspect of your life and the lives of those around you. That's because we are first responders and their families. First responders are well versed in reacting to a situation. It is literally what we do as firefighters, law enforcement, dispatch, and EMS personnel. When trauma enters our lives, we react to it by tucking it down away somewhere in our minds. But we carry it with us and it never really goes away. We need to stop carrying trauma into every aspect of our personal and professional lives. It's time to start having proactive, powerful conversations right now to gain a better balance in the responder's whole life. This is true for their families, especially the spouses. Take that first step in making some of the most important improvements in your life. Visit www.1strespondercoaching.org now to make an appointment to chat with FRC. A coach will reach out, and before you know it, you'll be on your way to living a proactively fit lifestyle.
All right, folks, we're back. We're going to rejoin this very powerful conversation between Asi and DJ about DJ's life and some stuff we're working on right here. Guys, this is really, really good. Good stuff. And like I said before the break, I can see it. This is circling around a subject that I talk about a lot, not only on the podcast and podcast interviews I do, but I do a lot with it with social media. And we're gonna get to that when we wrap up in a little bit. But I want you guys to kind of pick up where we were. We're talking about Asi's family life and his struggle with it right now. If we could keep going with that, that's great.
Yes. So thank you again so much for your willingness to share and, being candid and everything else. And the first thing that I want to bring to your attention is that every relationship that we have starts and ends with thoughts. And so the thoughts that we have about your wife, about your kids, about your mom, and all of those things, all of those relationships that you have are based on thoughts. And then ultimately the relationship that we have with ourselves is based on thoughts. But the amazing thing that nobody tells us about our thoughts is that thoughts are optional. And we get to choose the thoughts that we have. And there are a lot of times that we choose thoughts that don't serve us really well. And there's other times where in different situations, or a very similar situation, we choose a different thought and it creates a completely different result. And so when you think about your relationship with your mom, what are some of the thoughts that you're thinking to yourself as it relates to your relationship and the current state of your relationship?
Um, some of the thoughts that I have is, should I call? You know, should I put a band-aid on it? I know that can happen. Every day I battle with that one because I just want to call her. I just want to talk to her and I want to say, hey, you know, are you good? What's going on? But I know we'll jump right back into it like nothing ever happened, but it ultimately ends up more hurtful in the end. And I'm not willing to just put a band-aid on a
Mhm.
bullet hole.
Okay.
So, I think about that mostly.
Okay. So if you were to answer that question for yourself of should I call, what is your response to that question?
No,
No?
Mm.
Okay.
yes, no. I always go back to it and I look at, things, I try to look at the big picture on things. And again, I think granting her the space and the opportunity because I feel like I presented every option that I could to fix it. But I can't make somebody fix something if they don't want to see that there is an issue.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Okay.
I go
And
back.
so there's lots of abilities that we have to communicate, and calling is just one of them. And so, do you feel like you have something that you need to communicate to your mom to help you to move forward, or to help you to not have that reoccurring thought of should I call?
No, I think that I laid everything, and it's been, you know, a progressive issue, and then that gets to the point where you know people do what they're gonna do, and I just don't have the energy to do all the other stuff and worry about the stuff that I'm truly responsible for.
Hmm.
Plus, with the being overworked, this and that, it's a lot, and I don't have the energy for anything that's not positive. So it's kind of a thing that if I met you, DJ, and it wasn't a positive interaction, I've learned to. It seems kind of cold, but I'm out, and it's nothing personal.
Mm.
Hmm.
But with time and with age and just knowing that in my heart that I'm truly a positive person. I don't wish any ill will on anybody. And I really want to be I want to be a resource to people. I want to, promote only positivity. So if it's not like that, to the point where if I could do that with my own mother, in a sense, it's almost very cold because I could do it to anybody.
Right.
So it's something that I deal with too. And it's, interpersonal relationships in the firehouse or wherever, sometimes it takes some give and take, some push and pull. But I'm in a space to where if it's not good,
Hmm.
oh, that's easy. We could just work. I'm out. So
Mm.
So if I understand the answer to the question of should I call, it sounds like the answer is no.
yeah, it's just a flat no.
It's just a flat no. So why is it that you think that every day you circle back to that question of should I call my mom when you have decided that the answer is no?
Because it's my mom. And there's no easy way to I love her, you know, and it doesn't mean that we have to, there's no love lost.
Hmm.
And I laid it on the table when I let her know, hey, I'm not doing this anymore.
Hmm.
Here's the option. You can call me if you ever need me. You just call me. I'll be there. But it'll just be for that and it'll go back to
Mhm.
where we are.
So the great thing about relationships is that we can have relationships that look differently. And it sounds to me like the relationship that you have with your wife and the relationship you have with your children and the relationship you have with your mom, each one of those look and feel differently. And so at this stage of your life, your relationship with your mom is one where you think about her a lot, but you don't necessarily think it's necessary to reach out and call her, even though if she were to ever pick up the phone and need something from you, that you would be there 100% for her. Is that correct?
That's yes, sir. That's correct.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So it sounds to me like you have a relationship that you almost need to be okay with in your mind. And, it's one of those things where I like to think of it like as an internet like bandwidth. Like I've only got so much bandwidth to manage the things in my life to the best of my ability. And if I have things that are occupying that bandwidth, or I like to think of it as my screen on my laptop, if my laptop screen is too overloaded with icons and with clutter in there, it's hard for me to sometimes process the things that I need to process. So, do you think that there is something moving forward that you could do to manage or to set aside that reoccurring thought that you're having of should I call my mom, and just kind of set that aside in a meaningful way to free up that bandwidth in your mind so that you can process all of those other challenges, this new status with your children, and this window in time that you have, in your life and in your career to free up that ability.
Um, that's an interesting question because I feel like sure, but I'm not willing to give it up because I still want there to be hope, and
Mhm.
I think the scariest thing for a person like me, what I've become, and I think it's to a fault, like we can go back to like my mom, my dad. I'm in a space to where I have characteristics of both my mom and my dad. And sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing. Like we can be
Hmm.
pretty ruthless people. Like I have characteristics of, like I said, I can cut something off in a heartbeat. It's no problem. The scary thing for somebody like me is if I'm out, I could just be out. There's nothing that can be done.
Mhm.
And I've, with, all the things that's happened in life and the fire service, and I kind of could, I'm confident in where I want to go with things. So the scariest part for me with my mom, she holds a special place in my heart because if this is the average person, they're just out. So even though she's kind of, I still had this glimmer of maybe we could work it out and things will go back. But if in my mind, if I cut that part off, it's off.
Mhm.
So I'm just, and I've come to terms with, the type of person that I am and the things that, you know, and that's what scares me the most is, am I really out? If that makes sense.
Yes, yes. So we're going to wrap up our coaching session here. And again, I really, really appreciate what you've brought to us and the discussion that we've had. Like this is a real discussion about something that a lot of people have, those relationships and different things. But Asi, if you wouldn't mind sharing just one thing that you are taking away from our discussion today, or one action item, or one thought that is going to move you forward in a positive way as a result of our discussion, what do you think that would be?
Uh, I think, you know, the best thing that we could do is exactly what we just did. I mean, I feel like a weight is lifted because I feel like I'm talking to two people that understand the culture, understand what we go through. And it's not just like I'm telling you something and you can understand a part of it. I feel like everybody's going through something. And, I just feel like you guys bridging that gap and bringing this type of resource out is amazing. So as a whole, I just think it's a great thing. What I shall do though is, I have to sit back and take in everything that we talked about. I can't tell you anything in particular, like right here, because I'm still just like I'm a little emotional actually.
Mhm.
But I do feel like, you know, I think maybe, just thinking, like you said, different ways of, different, you get to choose your thoughts. Hearing that, it helps, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna probably look at that. I'm gonna work on that. Also, I'm gonna pick up this book that you spoken about, and maybe call you on some all time and just see what's happening, man. But no, as a whole, man, I appreciate you guys. I really thank you.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate you. And there's the fact that we brought up that book. It also kind of ties into the fact that we're offering a free class for first responders coming up here next month. It's the book is Atomic Habits, and is an absolutely phenomenal book. And this is a resource that we have really wanted to reach out to individuals because we know as coaches that we don't have all the answers. And we know that if we can just improve ourselves 1% a little bit better each day, that compounded improvement day after day after day, you look back over 12 months of improving just 1% a day, and you're a completely different person. And so, in my journey in mental health, in life coaching, and all of these things, the two books that I've really, really drawn myself to are Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself and those Atomic Habits. Those two books by themselves is almost like a life coach program, ready to go.
Yeah.
And so I'll be sure to send you that link, and we'll share that link with everybody out there. The class that we're providing is going to be a top-notch professional class that has the ability to make a meaningful and lasting change in your life. And we're offering it for free. And so we really appreciate the work that first responders out there are doing, appreciate the work that you're doing, appreciate your willingness to come on and chat with us and have this amazing, encounter, this amazing discussion with each other. And I appreciate Keith for, setting this up and making this possible and helping to bring the gift and the value of coaching to a greater audience.
This is one of the things I wanted to hit on is having a coaching session on this podcast. I think is important for several reasons. One of the most important ones is a lot of the misnomers with it. And one of the takeaways I had with my first experience with coaching was the conversation didn't start with where it ended, much like what just happened here. And that's one of the important parts, because a lot of times anyone who's ever been through therapy or counseling knows that you go to it, and this isn't to downplay any of that. I use it still. I use coaching to better my therapy, but a lot of times with therapy, you go and you're depressed, so they work on your depression. You have anxiety, they work on your anxiety. You just had a death in the family, you work on that. And it's a path they go on, they guide you down, and it works. A lot of times with our problems, especially as first responders, because especially as men, we mask what the real problem is. We say what we think or feel or have experienced is socially acceptable to say is the problem, or we cover up what may be the problem using other excuses or whatever it may be. And the real problem is really hidden under a few layers. It's like an onion. And coaching, for me, and what just happened here again, was able to sort of take some of those layers off and get to when I would talk about some of the issues I wanted to work on, goals I wanted to set. We would actually find out what those really were, because a lot of times, and especially like in peer support groups, someone will say they're struggling with this. Well, maybe they're not really struggling with that. Maybe they're just saying they're struggling with this because that's easier to say. And with coaching, when you have these, and Asi, you just experienced this, when you have these deep conversations and you start building that relationship with your coaching partner, you're able to get these out because you're dealing with a real person. This is a real conversation, like DJ just said, and that's what really makes the coaching model work so well. And to second what he just said about the Atomic Habits, I can't stress that class enough. I've read the book twice now. And James Clear is one of the most phenomenal writers when it comes to good habit forming that's out there. Honestly, it's that, again, with what DJ said when it comes to the coaching model and what it can do, is just the foundation of what people, especially those of us in the first responder world, really need to live a more successful life outside of the job, or even maybe inside the job. So like today was a great glimpse. And this was, again, like DJ said in the beginning, folks, this is a very unusual setting, because this is going to be broadcast. This is going to be out there for people to see. Normally this is in the confines. If you do a one-on-one, it's in the confines of just between the coach and the coaching partner. So this is a very unique situation to get a glimpse inside a real coaching session, to sort of give you an idea of how this may go. So, I really want to thank both of you, Asi and DJ, for taking this opportunity today to show our viewers how this goes, and why first responder coaching is really stressing doing this for the first responder families that are out there.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Keith. And thanks, DJ.
Yeah, you bet. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. I hope we can do it again. And Keith, you're doing an amazing job. Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work. Good work, buddy.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. It's honestly, it's a labor of love. I get to talk to some pretty awesome people, and we get that moments like this where I think we're all a little bit closer now, and all it took was just a conversation. It's literally just talking, and I think as we go further down the road, hopefully more and more first responders and their families will see that this is just literally having conversations, and what better place to have one of them than on a podcast, right?
Exactly.
So guys, thank you both again. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to have this opportunity brought to you on the Resilient Responder podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes as we go into the new year, and be safe. Thank you.